The scripture can be found in Joshua 24, first chapter, verses 13 through 18. I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version, Joshua 24, first chapter, starting with the 13th verse, and we're going to end with the 18th verse. I gave you a land on which you had not labored, and towns that you had not built, and you live in them. You eat the fruit of vineyards and olive yards that you did not plant. Now, therefore, revere the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river and in Egypt and serve the Lord. Now, if you are willing to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served in the region beyond the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Then the people answered, far be it from us that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For it is the Lord our God who brought us and our ancestors up from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, and who did those great signs in our sight. He protected us along all the way that we went, and among all the peoples through whom we passed. And the Lord drove out before us all the peoples, the Amorites who lived in the land. Therefore, we also will serve the Lord, for he is our God.
Thank you, David. Today, I want to talk a little bit from the topic, a very simple topic, just choices. Choices. You know, some people in life are very decisive. Give them a choice and they can respond quickly and affirmatively and decisively. But other of us, not so much. My family can attest to the fact that I'm not one of those people. I often have a bit of trouble making a decision and sticking to it. Like when we decide we want to go to a restaurant, or if I have plans to meet some friends for breakfast or something. I actually will go online in advance as soon as I know where I'm going, look at the menu, and or even days before we get there, and pick out what I want to eat. But by the time I get to the place, to the restaurant, I've changed my mind. I might even change my mind again before the order is placed. And at times, I've changed my mind after the order was placed. I continue to second guess myself. I'm sure I'm not the only one who does that kind of thing. I've read somewhere that human beings make an average of 35,000 decisions every day. Some of our decisions are small, like should I get up or should I press the snooze button? Do I want to brush my teeth or should I shower first? We make these small decisions every morning. Some of them we don't even think about. I read an anonymous quote that said, every morning you have two choices. Continue to sleep with your dreams or wake up and chase your dreams. The choice is yours. Other decisions have a much greater impact than those small subconscious decisions. Decisions like, who should I vote for? Or should I start that business? Should I get in, stay in, or get out of a relationship? Which doctor should I go to? Should I relocate or stay where I am? And over the past 2 weeks, we've seen greater decisions. We've seen globally the effects of a decision that was made for the U.S. to pull out of Afghanistan. Now, no matter which side of that decision you fall on, should that have happened or should it not have happened the way it did? There's no denying that the results of that decision has been a heart-wrenching thing to watch from a distance. But it's also been unimaginable for those who are devastated by the decision, the people of Afghanistan, especially women and those who helped the U.S., but could not get out of that country. Decisions always have consequences, some good, some bad. David Shore said, you make decisions and choices, and you're never going to know if they're the ideal choices, but you make them, and then you make the most of them. That's what this text for today is all about making life decisions. The text comes from the book of Joshua. It's a book that tells the story of a leader who picked up where Moses left off on that journey of the Israelites to the promised land. And it ends in the death of Joshua and his burial. The book of Joshua, in effect, brings a conclusion to the story of the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt. Now, this is not an eyewitness account. It's believed that there was a single literary work that serves as the underlying framework for the books of Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and 1st and 2nd Kings. It's believed that the events told about in the book of Joshua actually happened 200 to 600 years prior to the writing. And once again, it was told to an audience of Israelites who had been taken into bondage. The message of the 24th chapter begins with an accounting of the history of the Israelites, reminding them of all the things that the Lord Yahweh, the God of Israel, had done for them, beginning with freeing them from the grips of the Pharaoh in Egypt, to all of the ways God provided for them in the wilderness, and how God had conquered the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Anybody who stood in their way, God got them out of the way to get them to the land they had been promised. But along their journey, they had picked up traditions that were not originally theirs. You know how it is, like some of us Northerners who moved south and learned to put jelly on or jam on a sausage biscuit. I'm still trying to get that. Or learned how to say bless your heart in that double entendre kind of way. We pick up things in the lands that we move to. For the Israelites, those regional traditions were more severe, like worshiping the gods of the people they had encountered along the way. Hence, Joshua's communication of God's message that they had to make a choice since it was starting to look like they were embracing these other gods. That's why the book of Joshua says, now, if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. The Israelites in the story had a decision to make about their allegiance. The ones who read or heard this letter in the context of having lost all that their ancestors had gained, they were now in the situation of bondage to an oppressive Persian or Babylonian authority. They had also come to worship those gods of those lands instead of Yahweh. They needed to hear this message to be reminded that Yahweh could still be with them even in foreign lands when things were not going in a positive way. Because whereas the common view at the time was that gods were geographically confined, they needed to hear a message that reminded them that God had been with their ancestors in foreign lands wherever they were, with no locational restrictions. So since God was there with them, God could be with them now in the land where they were. But they had to make a decision. After the Israelites left Egypt, they were in awe of the God who delivered them. We've seen those stories, heard how they crossed the sea and they were given food in the wilderness. We've seen these, heard these stories. They worshiped one God, Yahweh. But as things started to get rough in their life, they were exposed to more choices of deities along their way. So they started to stray. We may ask, how could they have done that when they saw what God had done for them along the way? Well, we often end up doing that same thing in our lives. Many of us were brought up with some sort of faith perspective. Most of us on this gathering probably came from a Christian background that was passed down to us. We learned some things about life and about ethics through that teaching. Although I will admit there are some things that we were taught that were perhaps in error and caused some of us unnecessary pain. At the root, we were given some teachings, though, that were helping us to be whole and live whole and meaningful lives. But as time went by and life happened, some of us moved away from the religious traditions and the beliefs of our childhood, and the things that our parents and our ancestors had put so much time and energy into. Over time, those things became like the pantheon of gods the Israelites faced in foreign lands. The Israelites faced gods like Asher or An or Anki or Utu or Ishtar, but our gods had different kinds of names. The gods that we ended up moving to were gods with names like fear. We let our lives become defined or confined by fear of things that in most cases will never happen. But still, we're locked away and we're shackled by fear or doubt, otherwise known as insecurity. We allow these things to become the gods in our life that we worship or that we let confine us from moving forward in our life. For some of us, our God became our jobs. We became workaholics. Why did we do that? Because we felt like if we worked hard enough, we could gain some stature in the world. We could rise up the ladder in life. So we let our jobs become our God. Or we let our jobs become our God because of that other great God we refer to as money, thinking that money makes us more secure. Well, I would think we've learned some things, though, because we've been through enough recessions to make us rethink that. Or we saw what happened with COVID-19 and how much the financial situation changed for many of us. And if it's not jobs or money or fear, a lot of us have made people our God. We raise people up on pedestals that we know they're going to fall off of. We raise up our partners. We raise up our pastors. We raise up our politicians, and we make them like gods to us and then we're surprised and we're shocked and we're devastated when they fall, and they are always going to fall. These things got our time. These things drained our strength and shackled us from becoming all that we were created to be, taking up so much of our time and our headspace to point to things that really helped us or made us push God aside somewhere along the way. Like the Israelites in Joshua's time and those in captivity, we forgot about the love, the power, and the care of the God who walks with us. Arthur Miller said, an idol tells people exactly what to believe. God presents them with choices they have to make for themselves. The difference is far from insignificant. For the idol, men remain dependent children. Before God, they are burdened and at the same time liberated to participate in the decisions of endless creation. Just as the writer of Joshua 24 tried to express, all we have to do is look back over our lives and we'll see the many ways God was there for us and with us, as well as with our ancestors. How God opens doors for us. How God makes ways when there apparently appears to be no way. How God helps us keep our sanity when life becomes maddening. And most of us have had those moments in our life. I don't know about you, but I remember the nights of staying up at night worrying, having no answers, problems so severe that you didn't even know the words to pray or know how to pray. But my friends, we made it through because we're here today. I remember the old song, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? In 2021, there are people who say we've grown past a need for God. We have scientific advances. We have explanation for many things that the writers of the Bible thought were miraculous. But even though we have lots of answers, and there are a lot of things that we've learned because we have so much technology, some of us are smart enough to know that even as much as we know, there is so much more that we don't know. That there are some things we know instinctively, and there are other things we know experientially. But there are some things that we'll never know or that we continue to learn along the way. I consider myself to be a pretty smart, technically astute human being. I've studied and have been working in IT and engineering my whole adult life. But I'm smart enough to know that there is a God who loves me and who has been by my side through my whole life and brought me through things that I still don't know how I got through. I don't care what you call God. I can't even imagine how to navigate through life with no sense of the divine, with no belief that there's a spirit of love that's always nearby. And all we have to do is make a choice to return to it. I recognize that making a choice is not always the easiest thing to do, because there are a few things that we need in order to make healthy and positive choices. First of all, we need free will. And we have free will. God gave us free will. Never yield total power over your life to anybody or anything. But then work towards a world where everyone has the opportunity to be able to make choices for their lives. I don't know what we can do for the women in Afghanistan, but at least we can pray for those who do not have the same liberties that we've had, and those people who have lost their liberties now that the Taliban took over. Wherever people are that may be in bondage, we can continue to identify and work and do whatever we can do to make a positive change. We can encourage people, even in our circle of influence, not to take their freedom lightly, but to use it to make choices that will enhance not only their lives, but the lives of others. The second thing that we have is information. We need to stay informed about the things that are happening around us. We don't need information overload, but we need awareness of the events that are happening beyond our household so that we can make wise decisions, and not just outside of our household. We need to stay connected to the people who are even at our own table and the people who are in our families. We need to understand what's going on, talk to each other, say what's up with you, how was your day today? Get to know, get information that we can use to make wise decisions, even in our own households. And the final thing we need for making healthy decisions is the ability to think critically. We need information and we need awareness so we can think for ourselves, not just on the surface, but we need to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and not depend on groupthink. Because if we just depend on what the pastor said or what this person said or what that group believes, we don't know where we're going to end up, because that leads to alternative facts and conspiracy theories. So don't ever take what even I say as face value. Look up the text on your own. Think about the points from the sermon on your own. Think about the things that came up for you while I'm talking on your own. Let the decisions you make be born out of your experience, your faith, and your thoughts. Zig Ziglar said, "I'm so thankful I had the strength and promises of a loving God to guide my choices and decisions and to uphold me through the unbelievably dark days in times of overwhelming sorrow." The choices the Israelites had to make were both theological and political. To choose God under the shadow of your oppressor and their gods was a radical countercultural move, because you were making a choice to live by the laws of God rather than live by the laws of the empire. Similarly, in a society where greed, wealth, and insular concerns seem to be the way, living under a love ethic and a command that we have love for one another is also a radical countercultural choice. But when I look back over my life, I see that it is the right choice. I'm glad today that I know that making a choice to embrace and believe in the loving God is a decision that we can make every day when we wake up to start our day. We have the free will to make that choice. It may not be trendy or popular in 2021, but God is still faithful and very present in our lives, even now. All we have to do is make a choice and trust and lean on that. I like the words of Nelson Mandela, where he said, "May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears." Thank you for listening.